Today I'm going to show you guys how to remove tan lines and sunburn in Photoshop. Hey guys, and welcome to Phlearn. My name is Adj, and you can find me on Phlearn.com, where we make learning Photoshop and photography fun. We got a cool episode for you today. It's all about summertime. People are going out, getting tan lines. Some of them are getting a lot of sunburn, and you're gonna be taking pictures of these people, and sometimes those things are gonna show up in your photos. If you guys have ever dealt with this, you've seen like these gnarly lines and you're like, how do I get rid of it? Because it's not just like adjusting skin tone. You have to take care of one area and another one and get those to blend together and then edit from there. So I'm gonna show you guys some really great ways to make some selections on skin that's gonna help you get rid of things like tan lines and sunburn in Photoshop. So here's our image for today. It was actually submitted by James Pugh, who used our suggest an episode box on Phlearn.com. He submitted this image and said, help me get rid of these tan lines. So that's what we're doing. And if you guys have images or ideas for episodes, be sure to use that or comment right down below on YouTube, and that's how we come up with our new episode ideas. So what we're gonna do, we need to start off by making a nice selection here with these tan lines. We've got a couple of options. Whenever you're looking at something like this, we're either thinking, okay, do I edit this area and make it look more like this area, or do I edit this area and make it look more like this area? Well, because it's a lot of red on here, I wanna get rid of this red to start off with. And I know she was trying to get a tan and things like that, but we're gonna take this red and we're gonna bring it closer to this area, make it look a little bit more like the rest of her skin, and then we can just take the entire area and we can darken it down and make it look like more like a natural tan anyway. Won't look like a sunburn. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, we need to figure out a way to make this area into a selection. We need to select this area, the redness, so I can actually do something with it. So on a new layer, I'm gonna go to select and then down here to color range. Okay, so select and then color range. And then we've got a little eyedropper here. You can just click right on your image, and I'm gonna select right there on this red area. Now we've also got, let me just zoom out so you guys can see this. There's an option here for range, which is as you lower this, it's going to just basically feather out the area that it's going to be selected. Like you can see her legs are not selected at a 32%. At 100%, everything that's in a similar color range is gonna be selected. And I don't need to really mess with her legs or her face or anything like that. So I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. So it's really just targeting her chest. Okay, there we go. And you can see that's what it's selecting. It's selecting that kind of like red color range. So that looks pretty good. We can bring our fuzziness up a little bit, which is just gonna select more like a larger color range, more similar to the area that you're actually selecting with your eyedropper tool. Now, if you need to add to the selection, just click on this plus eyedropper tool and you can do that as well. We're gonna do that, and I'm gonna bring our fuzziness down a little bit lower. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good, and we're gonna hit OK. So remember, the white areas become selected. You have a couple other preview options here. We can see it on like a black mat and a white mat and things like that. I prefer grayscale. The lighter areas get selected. So we're gonna hit OK. So now that we've got our red areas selected, and you can see they actually are selected, we need to figure out a way to get these back to basically looking like their regular skin tone. And for that, we're gonna use HueSaturation. Okay, so we're gonna go to our adjustment layers and grab a HueSaturation adjustment layer. Okay. So now, because we had a selection active, it automatically loads up into the layer mask. If I hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask, that's what my selection looks like. Okay? So what we're gonna do with our HueSaturation, I'm gonna bring our lightness up a little bit. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. We can bring our saturation down because red is gonna be a bit more saturated, right? Okay, and that looks pretty good as well. Now, that's one option. The other option is to use this Colorize button, which I actually prefer, because then it's going to make it a little bit more even. So we're going to hit this Colorize button, and you can, you could give her green skin if you wanted to. I don't suggest it. We're going to give it like a nice, tannish color, and we're going to be using this in a little bit to actually like give her the right skin color as well. Give her that tan she's always wanted. We're going to bring our lightness up, there we go, and we're going to bring our saturation down a little bit. Okay. There we go. And that looks pretty good. So we're gonna hit OK, and you can see it's definitely, all right, it's definitely not exactly the same. There we go. But it's getting pretty close. So we're gonna go ahead and close this down, and pretty close right now is really all we need. Okay, so let's just zoom out and we can see they're almost disappeared, right? But we still need to do a little bit more work. So from there, what we really need to do is take care of the line. Because what happens whenever you're out in the sun, not only are you getting lighter or darker, but you're also going to see things like little sunspots and things like that. And you can't just like adjust, you know, a hue saturation and get rid of all these little sunspots. So from there, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna grab our clone stamp tool, and on a new layer, sorry, the healing brush tool. On a new layer, we're gonna sample current and below, and I'm just gonna sample this area right here where we don't have any of these sunspots, and I'm just gonna start painting in right over here. So sampling the area, and basically what I'm doing is blurring the transition. So the first layer was like, you know, kind of getting us ready, right? This hue saturation was kind of getting us ready, making them more similar. And now what I'm doing is I'm just using a healing brush tool to really just kind of make that transition a little bit more blurred. So we won't really be able to see what's going on, right? All right, there we go. Oh, I'm here on the hue saturation layer. I'm like, why is this not working? Make sure you're on the proper layer before using your healing brush. All right, there we go. That looks good. And we can even take care of like some of these like red little dots and things like that right up there using the healing brush. Okay, there we go. Almost ready. Okay, there we go. So you can see that really makes a big difference because this area is like a speckling of skin, and you can't just get rid of that using, you know, a hue saturation layer. So this just helps everything blend back together. Okay, so our sunburn or our, you know, tan lines and things like that, it's pretty close to good. We just need to go ahead, and now it's a little bit too light, so we need to go ahead and bring it back down. So the idea here is take those colors that are separate, right? The redness of her skin and then the white areas that didn't get the tan, make those look similar, and then you can adjust them both up or down to make it look a little bit more like she's got that tan, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. So match those together first and then edit them. All right. So with this, we're just going to use the same hue saturation adjustment layer. Well, we're going to use a different one, but same technique. I'm going to click on this Colorize button, and now we're going to just click on, there we go. We can just give her that tan she's always wanted. All right, we're going to play around with saturation and things like that. Let's hit Command-I to inverse this and see what we've got. It's basically selecting everything. So I'm going to hit Command-I on the layer mask now. All right, and we're just going to paint this back visible right here on her skin. And there we go. Right now, it's a little bit too dark, we can see. It's just looking like, okay, it's a little bit too much. So what we're gonna do in just a second, we're just gonna bring our lightness up a little bit. Or you can just lower your opacity, which is probably, there we go, which is probably what we wanna do. So if you guys did wanna give your subject a tan, you can say, hey, you don't need to go spend all that time out in the sun and, you know, risk getting a bit bad sunburn and all that stuff like that. You can just do it with a hue saturation adjustment layer. It's really quick and easy. There we go. And just say, hey, well, let's just do it in Photoshop, and then it'll be safe and fun and easy. All right, we're gonna do a little bit on her skin as well. Okay, there we go. And it's a little too saturated, so I'm gonna bring that down a little bit. There we go. And we're just gonna lower the opacity a little bit. So again, I'm not trying to make her like, you know, super bronzy or whatever. Just give it a little bit of color. Okay, that looks good. Now the final thing that I'm gonna do, just because before we had all these layers visible, we saw a little bit more definition between the shadow here and the highlights up here. So I'm gonna add that definition back, because sometimes when you blend areas of skin, you kind of lose a little bit of the definition, the highlights and the shadows. So to get that back, we're gonna use a very simple dodge and burn technique. We're just gonna create a new layer, change this layer blend mode from normal down to soft light. Okay, and now I'm just gonna grab a brush tool. We're just gonna use a very soft edge brush, and I'm just gonna paint some dark right down here. There we go. All right, so painting dark down there is gonna give us a little bit of shadow area. All right, and then I'm gonna paint white right up here to give us a little bit of highlight area. All right, and this is gonna give us some nice definition that we want. Just kind of like, there we go, carve out her features just a little bit more, because you could see them a little bit more. Like, you could see the highlights and the shadows a little bit more before we did this. So now I'm just kind of like bringing back pretty much what we already had to begin with. All right, that looks really nice. And if, you know what, this is still a little bit too light in there, I can just grab a curves adjustment layer. There we go. Let's just make this a little bit darker. Hit Command-I in there, and then paint white right over top of there. There we go. So all these steps that these kind of additional steps, these are not part of removing a tan line, obviously. We pretty much had the tan line gone, right over here. This is just working on her skin. Some bonus, some extra stuff for you, just in case you wanted to learn how to give someone a tan, not using the actual sun itself. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today's episode. Let's take a look at the before and the after. Again, the before and the after. So the next time someone comes to you and they got a gnarly tan line and they're all worried about it on the photo shoot day, say, don't worry about it. I learned a great technique on Phlearn.com to get rid of those tan lines in Photoshop. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more episodes just like this, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to leave a comment right down below if you have any ideas for future episodes, and share this with your friends and family, or just anyone who wants to learn more about Photoshop. They don't even have to be your friend. You don't even have to like them. Oh God. Anyway, we'll Phlearn you later. Bye everyone.
Hey man, I don't like you at all, but I think you could learn a lot about Photoshop. Have you checked out Phlearn?
Who talks like that?
I hate your guts, but I want you to learn more about Photoshop.
Let me take a drink of my water.
Delicious.